Hello and welcome back to the Down the Forest Path Knitting Podcast. My name is Nicola. I'm the host and moderator of this podcast, and I am a knitter, embroiderer, weaver, and whatever have you from Germany. And I'm here to talk to you about my latest knitting progress on a few objects, and not just knitting, but today we also have some crochet and embroidery. So if that's your jam, then stay tuned and let's dive straight in. Why is this video marked as an advert? You're probably asking yourself, has this channel suddenly achieved the level of success that it just hadn't before? And the simple answer is no, absolutely not. This is the same little corner of YouTube that it's always been. But I just wanted to be super clear about this because I am participating in my very first test knit of a pattern. And because I'm doing this test knit, I got the pattern that I'm testing for free because it hasn't been tested yet, so it's not a finished pattern. I mean, I guess it's quite finished, but it's not like finished in the same sense that it's like final and stuff like that. So I got the pattern that I'm testing for free. There was no conditions attached apart from test the pattern, but because I want to be like 100% upfront with you about stuff like that, I just thought it made sense to kind of like highlight that the pattern that I'm doing here I got for free in exchange for testing it. So there you have it. As October is turning into November, the weather here in Germany is getting much more grey, much more gloomy. We recently switched to daylight savings time, and that means it now gets dark at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and the days feel really, really short. It's also finally getting a bit cooler, which means it's time to get out all of your knit items, your jumpers, your hats, your shawls, everything. And I've been wearing them when I've been hiking and going on long autumn walks, enjoying the autumnal scenery around Germany. Here you have a little snippet of me being on a really nice hike along the shores of the River Rhine and looking out over all of the beautiful autumn foliage. And that hike also had this amazing rope bridge that I just had to go on. I've also been knitting a lot because, let's face it, you just have less social obligations in autumn and winter, right? And I've also been like having really nice board game evenings with friends hanging out. And recently, my friends and I decided we would do a spooky Halloweeny vampire themed board game night and dress up in style for that evening. So I did of course have to make a little costume as well for this occasion, which was a little choker that was embroidered with blood droplets. And I'm just really excited to talk to you about like all of the kind of like small different things I've been doing since we last caught up, actually a week ago only. It's just been so busy. But yeah, let's just sit down and chat a little bit about knitting, about embroidery, about crochet, and I guess you should grab a cup of something cozy. I have a little bit of vanilla chai down here that my little sister gave me, and I'm very ready for that like sitting down autumnal drink and all things wool. So I would say let's get right into it. In the most exciting news of the week, I have been selected to do my very first test knit, and I'm testing a new pattern by Jennifer Steingass. Most of you know her, like her colorwork patterns are always like the top of the list in Ravelry whenever she publishes anything. And she had a like relatively long hiatus from publishing, and since she's come back, I think she published one pattern already, and now there's this one being tested, the Harvester. And there was a test call on Ravelry like I think a week and a half ago, and I saw it. I got really lucky that I was actually online and saw it relatively speedily, and I thought about it for like an hour or two, and then I was like, no, like I have this quantity of Malabrigo that has just been like languishing away in my stash, and I have just been dying to knit it up into something. So that's absolutely perfect for the colorwork jumper that she wanted to test knit. So I commented, and she actually picked me to test that jumper, and I got started on it. So I can now show you what I've been making, because I can show you some progress impressions of it. So this is how you see I'm not actually a professional podcaster, because I should have like preemptively detangled this. And I'm sorry that now you're having to kind of suffer through it, but I think this will be rather fast. So here you have it, and I'm going to spread it out on different needles and take an aerial shot of it, because I'm very professional in a minute, so you get a better look. But it's this beautiful colorwork jumper. That's a top-down circular yoke jumper. So this is the beginning of the yoke and the neckline, and it has these gorgeous feathers that are running around the entire neck, and you're kind of like just clad in little bird feathers. For me, they are feathers. They could also be sheets of grain, because I guess that's why it's called the harvester. That also really fits. Yeah, they're going round, and there's like a few, I think 2 rows of these grains, feathers, and I find it so beautiful. It reminds me of another Jen Steingass sweater where it was like a bigger feather going round, and I really loved that one too. I think that was called Avena, right? It might have been a different one, but if yes, then I'll put the name below. And I'm really happy I got picked to do this. It's been a huge imposter syndrome experience, I have to say, because people are so fast and their sweaters are so pretty, and I can just see their yokes being knit up and them looking so gorgeous. And here I am just kind of like knitting away. Still first part of the yoke. I think I might be one of the slowest ones on there, but I am doing my best, and my best is good enough, and I will get it done within the testing deadline, I think. So I think that's fine. You don't always have to be like the first, the best, or anything like that, right? I just sometimes find it hard to not put pressure on myself, because I also don't want to let Jen down, because obviously there's a lot of trust placed in the test knitters, and I really want to honor that and get it done in a nice way, in a good way, and of course in time. So here is the yoke, and as I said, we have Malabrigo that I'm using for it. And let me just get the balls out of my bag to show you, because I love these colors, and I love these colors together. So I have a few balls of Malabrigo Rios in the colorway series. That's this one. It's gray with orange speckles on it. And then I have one ball in Malabrigo glazed carrot, which is this orange. And I feel like these go together beautifully. I was a bit worried that the orange would not show up enough, but it actually is showing up enough, which is lovely. But I was a little bit scared because it was blending a bit into the orange on this yarn. But before I started knitting, I used a little trick to work out if I thought it would work or not, and I quickly want to talk to you about that, because I think it might be useful for anyone who likes to do color work, or who might be thinking about doing their own first color work. So before I started knitting this up, I took a picture of these 2 yarns next to each other on my phone camera, and then I put the color setting to black and white. And what that does is it shows you if the yarn colors are different enough in color value that color work will show up nicely or not. So if you're really unsure about if 2 colors would work for color work, then you can use that to see if there's enough contrast for your yarn to be visible, for the contrast color to stand out. That doesn't mean that the colors will be harmonious or pretty. You might still have a like horrendous color combination there, but it will make sure that you can definitely see whatever color work motif you're intending to knit. So I think I have been thoroughly bitten by the color work bug, because last week I had all of the hats and this week I am doing this. This will be a little bit of a slower progress though, because it's of course quite a big thing to knit, and I still do have quite a bit of time to finish this test knit. So prepare to see little chunks of this here and there, and I'm not going to show you what the finished object looks like until the final pattern has been released. And I'm very excited about that, of course, but first of all, I still have a lot of knitting ahead of me. So let me talk about Malabrigo Rios a little bit, because I feel like most of you will have heard the name, but not everyone might have used it for projects. So Malabrigo Rios is a superwash yarn, and I think it's 192 meters per 100 gram. So it's a worsted weight yarn, and it's quite special. So the colors are incredibly lovely. I love Malabrigo Rios colors. I think it's beautiful, and I think also because of the superwash effect, the colors are often kind of like heathered and marled in a very special way that kind of stands out, and you start recognizing it instantly. Because it's superwash, I have quite an issue with it, which is that it stretches incredible amounts if you wash it. So the first jumper I ever knit was in Malabrigo Rios, and in fact it was in Malabrigo Rios Glazed Carrot, and I tried it on, was perfect. I washed it, and I thought I'd completely ruined it because it stretched so much it looked horrendous. Back then I also didn't know that if you do wash handmade sweaters, you're not supposed to just lift them up by the shoulders, but you kind of have to cradle them like a little newborn baby to make sure that they do not like completely lose shape. So you have to be really careful. And I also didn't know that you should kind of wrap up the wool in a towel and squeeze out most of the moisture, anything like that. I just didn't do. I think I might still have a picture of my first sweater from then on my camera roll. If I do, let me put it in for you so you can laugh with me, not at me, please, at that intense failure. So yeah, that was the Malabrigo Rios for starters experience, and I managed to actually fix the sweater as unfixable as it's looking there and I do not recommend that, and I will tell you why, putting it in the dryer for a bit, because that made it snap back into shape, and it was really impressive because I didn't expect just how much it would go back to its like former size once dry again, especially if dried with a little bit of heat. I've since heard that a lot of people who knit with Malabrigo Rios either put it in a washing machine, which is also technically not recommended on the label, and then kind of hand dry it by squeezing out the moisture and drying it on a drying rack flat, or that they start doing that and then put it in the dryer for like the last bit of moisture, because that makes it snap back into shape, because it often doesn't fully go back to its original size if you hand dry it. I back then, encouraged by my first success of like putting Malabrigo Rios in the dryer, did not do any of that kind of like careful consideration, and I just started putting my Malabrigo Rios sweaters through the wash and in the dryer without so much of a concern, and that really affected the like lifespan of the yarn and the fabric. So let me illustrate that for you in two examples. First, I will show you this hat I made in Malabrigo Rios that I'm still quite happy with. So I think this is called the gingerbread head, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I'll link it below. But I made this for Matthew and he really likes it, and I still really like it. I think it's really cute. It's so squishy. Like Malabrigo Rios is really like, if you think about squishy yarns, this is the most squishy yarn. It's a really nice yarn, guys. Like I'm talking to you about this because obviously I have like a little bit of criticism about it, and I want you to be aware if you plan a purchase, because it's also quite pricey. But overall, this is a really good yarn, just so you know that too. So here you have it. If you look close up at the fabric, you see that it's held up really well. We wear this a lot. It's a good hat for late autumn, early winter, when it's not completely howlingly cold, but it's decently cold and a little bit windy. The cables stand out beautifully in this yarn, the stitch consistency is excellent. And you see that even though this has been in rucksacks and been carried around all over like the whole country basically and worn, it's barely pilled. It looks beautiful. It's really nice. Now, this is a hat, so it's not been through the wash that much, and I don't think it might have been through the dryer once, but that's it. As always, also like, please don't come for me if your dryer objects don't turn out super safe. Don't put stuff in the dryer just because I did. Then here we have a colorwork jumper that I washed more often, and it came out of the washer and dryer fine multiple times, but the last time I did it, something went wrong and this happened. So if you look at the fabric, you can see it's kind of this felted but also kind of plasticky mess. I think that's because superwash has a kind of plastic coating, and it's just, it feels a bit like a shower mat actually, like when you step out of the shower or something. So this has completely kind of felted, which is superwash is known for not doing. So I think I could probably now steek it or something like that, but it also just doesn't feel as nice anymore. You can see this even stronger here on the inside where there used to be kind of floats and stuff like that. It's just kind of melted almost into this, and I've washed dried it before fine, but like something changed, something wore down, something snapped, and I got this out of it. So just be careful with the washing of it. I think probably what people recommend with just putting it in a wool finish in the dryer and keeping a close eye on it would work best, because also I've not found a way to dry it that was hand dried that didn't make it stretch out, which is also not what you want. But that's also one of the reasons why I'm really excited about this test knit, because the yarn that was recommended for the sweater is Red Rosaria Rosa Puma Brusca, and that yarn is thinner than the yarn I am using. So the yarn they recommended is, I think, 125 meters per 50 gram, and that means it's 250 meters per 100 gram, whereas this is like 192 meters per 100 gram. So since I'm using a little bit like smaller needle size than the designer even to get gauge, I am knitting a very tight fabric in Malabrigo Rios here, and I've heard that if you do it like that, it doesn't actually stretch out that much. So I'm kind of hoping that that's true, and I will keep you posted once I've washed this properly, so you get an idea about that. But I feel like that's a really good experiment for me to do with this, because yeah, I've just, the size difference is intense, and between the object when it's like before and after washing, and I have not found a way to properly account for that. Of course, you can kind of like swatch before, wash the swatch, and then dry it, and it kind of works, but I still always find it completely mind-boggling just how extreme it is with Malabrigo Rios. So yeah, I'm really excited about this, and I will see how it goes. Looking at the originally suggested yarn, I also realized for the Knitting for Olive girlies out there that if I'm correct, then the Knitting for Olive merino held double should have the exact same weight as the Red Rosaria Rosa Puma Brusca. So you might be able to knit this sweater with 2 strands of Knitting for Olive merino, and it would be lovely because it has so many cool colors. I always find it a little bit difficult that the Knitting for Olive merino is not a true fingering weight yarn. It's a little bit lighter. I'm always kind of like stumped on how to use it. I struggle with the needle size a little bit, but that would be a really good use for it if you're thinking about it, I think. So keep your eyes peeled for when the sweater pattern comes out. Today I don't only have one finished object, I have 2, which I find quite impressive because I only sat down with you last week and now we're here again. But they're not knit, they're embroidered and crocheted. So maybe let's start with the crochet one. because that's closer to knitting, so the knitting girlies who are also into crochet can stay on for this and then switch off after if they're not interested in embroidery. But yeah, let's talk about this. This is a choker that I knit for the vampire board game night. We played a game called Fury of Dracula, where one player is Dracula and the rest of the players get to hunt Dracula, which is really fun. Matt was Dracula. You get to pick who plays Dracula, which is good because I would have gotten so stressed out. I'm really bad at like sneak games. I just really don't like it. But so we got to hunt Dracula and that was really nice. And because we were dressing up for it a bit and I wasn't sure what I would want to wear, I made this little choker and I was very impressed with myself for finishing it. So anyone who crochets can see that this is completely full of mistakes, probably, but I'm happy with it and I don't care because I'm not primarily a crocheter. But I'm sure that more qualified people could do a way better job with this. Let me put it on for you so you get a better impression. This pattern is free on Ravelry. I forgot what it's called. I think it's something called like lace edge choker or something like that. And I saw that many people made it for their wedding day, which is really cute. I made it for a board game night. Just less spectacular, I guess. But yeah, so here you have it. It's this beautiful silver choker. I made this from Lino Muka linen because I thought, I didn't have any crochet thread on hand because, as I said, I'm primarily a knitter, not a crocheter. But I thought linen would maybe block nicely and keep shape quite nicely. And I didn't want to starch this or anything like that. So that's what I used and I blocked it. And I think it did keep its shape quite nicely. I think it does look quite lovely. And then I just threaded in some dark red burgundy silk because I thought that would kind of go with the vampire theme a little bit. And yeah, then it was done. And in the end, I did not end up wearing this because I wore the other choker that I finished. So let me get you one close up of this still so you have a good impression. I'm going to make more of these because I really like that this was just doable in like an evening. This was fun. I made this while watching Interview with the Vampire, the movie, so that was quite on brand as well. I was just really excited about that board game night. Like any themed events like that, you can always kind of get me with. So there we have the beautiful choker. And then let me show you the choker that I actually made and ended up wearing. So this looks like a long piece of velvet nothing at the first glance. It's this really nice petrol, do you call that petrol? Yeah, I think so, colored ribbon. And then you see that I've embroidered it and it has little blood droplets kind of coming off it. So I'm going to get my hair out of the way and put this on so you can see it, because I don't love the idea of having to pull my hair out of the ribbon again like I did just now. Ta-da! Here we go. So free the hair. So yeah, you can see it's this long ribbon, and then in the back I've made this really long bow because I kind of like the look of that, the little bit like not super perky ribbon but longer. I feel like it has more of a Renaissance feel like that if it's just kind of hanging down, because like bow is kind of like a functional element and not just for decoration. So we have this velvet choker, and then we have this little blood spill here, which is made up of little beads like these ones. So they're little Miyuki beads, and then I have used little faceted beads in it, so like these ones here. And I was just embroidering on this lace like velvet ribbon, and it was really fun. Like I sometimes really like knitting where it's really like patterned and ordered, and sometimes I like embroidery where it's a little bit more creative, chaotic. You can kind of pick what you do next. So that was that part of my personality, getting something to do and doing this little Halloween vampire board game night ribbon that I ended up wearing, and I was really happy with it. And we ended up playing until 2 o'clock at night, and the next day was not a weekend. So when we got home, I just kind of really crashed on the sofa and didn't do anything anymore. And in fact, kind of had to force myself to actually go to bed because I was just so tired, but it was so much fun. And I hope that there are more like dress up board game nights in the future, because that was amazing. I would do that again tonight. I'm so tired. I had 3 coffees today, but again, like I would go tonight. And the friends who hosted, it's always fantastic at theirs. They make really nice food. It's really cozy. I always feel bad because they host a lot, but it's always so nice. Like, it's always so lovely. I did bring a pumpkin bread, which is like a banana bread but pumpkin, but it was actually really bad. It kind of got a little bit like sticky in the middle and it didn't properly bake through, so yeah, not the best recipe. Won't be linking that. I guess I did follow it as much as possible. I cut the sugar a bit, maybe that was the issue, but anyway, that is me going off on a tangent. So basically these 2 things are my finished objects for this week, and I could kind of feel when I was doing this that the embroidery bug was just biting me hard. It's not fully bitten me yet, but it's steadily crawling towards me. So I will keep knitting on my colorwork jumper this week. And I think what I will also do is I might create some blank canvas for me to embroider on by just knitting some very basic hats. I will be spending lots of time with friends and family in the next week, so I don't want to knit on anything that is too involved and too complicated. So that's kind of perfect to just have a stockinette hat on the go no matter what you're doing. And then hopefully I will have some really good canvas to embroider on, and I'm really excited about that. And I'll keep you posted. I don't know if I'm going to be back next week because, as I said, the week is looking quite busy, but the week after the latest, we will see each other again, and I hope I can present you some really nice progress on stuff by then. And see you then. Yeah, bye!